Now, I remember quite a number of years back, I was driving through Florida on the Sunshine State Parkway. An old GTO went screaming by me. Seconds later, an entire line of cars went flying by me. It was a blur. Laughing to myself, I thought, the GTO is the rabbit, paving the way for everybody else. Now, without thinking about it, my foot decided to break the monotony, and it pressed down on the accelerator. Funny, the last car in that line was in sight before I knew it. Hey Posse, thanks for joining me today in another episode in my live series. Now in this episode we're talking about following the crowd. Now I remember quite a number of years back, I was driving through Florida on the Sunshine State Parkway. That's a toll road, that's the main road that goes right down through the middle of Florida. As I was driving along, minding my own business, taking in the beauty of the Florida orange groves on both sides of the highway, they were laden with oranges. I love the sight and smell of those groves. If you've ever been on that road, you know how flat and straight it is. You can get bored pretty easily, and listening to music and looking at the orange groves is pretty much the only way you're going to be able to pass the time. Now, I'm the kind of guy that usually drives about 5 miles over the speed limit. Well, maybe 8 or 9. None of you are police officers, are you? But, oh, by the way, if you are, I really appreciate what you're doing for all of us. Well, anyway, I glanced from the groves on both sides of me to my speedometer, to my rear view mirror, and then back to my speedometer, and then back up to my rear view mirror. In the distance, there was this car coming up behind me pretty fast. Well, within seconds, an old GTO went screaming by me. Seconds later, an entire line of cars went flying by me. It was a blur. Laughing to myself, I thought, the GTO is the rabbit, paving the way for everybody else. Now, without thinking about it, my foot decided to break the monotony, and it pressed down on the accelerator. Funny, the last car in that line was in sight before I knew it. I didn't realize my little old Mustang had it in her. After about 20 minutes of going Mach 2 with my hair on fire, before I knew it, I was in a line of cars all being pulled off onto the shoulder of the Sunshine State Parkway. There was a Florida Highway Patrol cruiser blocking one of the lanes with 4 or 5 others parked on the side of the road. Now, an officer was standing in the middle of the highway motioning me to pull off and join the line with the rest of the pack. Without any of us realizing it, the Highway Patrol had a chopper monitoring our progress from overhead. The pilot had radio ahead to the cruisers to get ready for us, and they pulled the line of about, 15 or 20 of us off the road. I was ticked, but it was genius. Have you ever found yourself following the crowd? That's what we're going to talk about briefly today. This is extremely timely as we look at the national and even international environment we're currently living in. Now keep in mind, you can probably get better advice from your therapist, but I'm a whole lot less expensive. Here are some basic insights that I've picked up over my years. Oh, also, remember, you get what you pay for. We like to think about how independent we are, yet it's important to recognize how simultaneously we're interdependent. That's just the way life is, and that's the way we're hardwired. We think we're independent, but in reality, we're incredibly interdependent, and most of the time, we don't even know it. In this episode, we're going to look at a handful of things associated with following the crowd, or as some in the psychological community, and I like to say, the bandwagon effect. I'm not going to try to tell you whether it's good or bad. You'll have to make that decision yourself. The whole idea behind the bandwagon effect is that it's a bias that we have within ourselves that cause us to think or act a certain way if we believe others are doing or are thinking a certain way. What we find is that most of us don't have as much control over our thoughts and behaviors as we think. We take cues from our environment, especially from other people, on how to act or how we should act. Many of us enjoy hanging out with others who think like us, that share similar beliefs and opinions. The belief we hold are strengthened when we're around others who have similar views. We get locked into particular news cycles and tend not to deviate from it. We get so locked in that we begin to think there's something wrong with those who watch the other channels. Yeah, it's hysterical. I know people who actually talk down to those that don't believe the way they believe. They can't have a discussion on issues without saying something disparaging about an individual in the news, a political opinion, or a person, or get this, the person they're talking to. I don't get it. To me, that's kind of narrow-minded and, quite frankly, boring. But many are my friends and even my loved ones. Now, getting back to the bandwagon effect, we hear things like, if other people do it, that means it's right, right? Whether the question is what to do with an empty box of popcorn in a movie theater, how fast to drive on a certain stretch of highway, how to eat the chicken at the in-laws, or check out which fork do I use at a nice dinner party. For many of us, the actions of those around us is important in defining our particular answer. Social proof is a shortcut to decide how to think and act. It's interesting. Back in the day, people used to enjoy being together with those who thought differently than them. It made for stimulating conversation and relationships. Somehow we've lost the beauty of that. Also, have you noticed how advertisers inform us that a product is the fastest growing or the best selling? They don't have to persuade us that the product is good like they used to. They only need to say, others think so. If it's popular, it must be good. Testimonials, they're everywhere. Now, as you think about it, this bandwagon thing goes back even further. We realize that it's been wired into us maybe thousands of years. Whether we were hunter-gatherers or agrarian or industrialists, we had to band together in groups for no other reason but to survive. If you were banished or ostracized from the group or the union of people you associated with, that could be a death sentence. But we need to think for ourselves and encourage others to do the same, even if their thoughts are different from you. We don't need to try to convince somebody to be like or think like us. Encourage them to think those things through, ask questions, and be who they are created to be, the best them. Good gosh, if everybody thought like, acted like, looked like me or you, life would be pretty boring. I encourage you to make a concerted effort to think for yourself. Now, years ago, I had a friend who graduated from seminary. As he was preparing for his first church, I sent him this brief note. My hope is that it can be of benefit and encouragement to you also. Actually, if the Spirit moves you, pause the video for a second and take a quick look at it. Folks, if this episode was somehow able to resonate with you, I'd appreciate you letting me know in the comments below. Or subscribe. The subscription is free. And also, hit the little bell. And best of all, if this was helpful, share this with a friend. Well, there you have it. Following the crowd. Good news? Bad news? Or blending it? You decide and let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for joining me. Hey Posse, thanks so much for investing the time to watch this video. I trust it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And please consider hitting subscribe. Also, click here to check out our new online shop. We have a great lineup of wine-related items that will help you get the most out of your wine experience. Oh, and be sure to check out these other videos. Until next time, cheers.